10,000 steps per day is a number that we all look to as the optimal amount of steps to get in your day, particularly when we're measuring. But have you ever thought, why is this? Where did this even come from? Well, very interestingly, this came from Japan in the 1960s in the lead up to the Olympics. There was a company that were producing and selling pedometers, and the only reason they chose 10,000 steps was because the Japanese symbol for 10,000 resembles a man walking. So this has no evidence to it, at least from its foundation. However, is there any research for it? Because it sounds like a reasonable number. So the question is this what we should be aiming for? Is it more, or maybe is it less? So this is what I'm going to look at in this video by looking at 5 different research papers that basically answer this question. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven if you haven't met me yet, and in this video I want to look at what is the optimal number of steps per day to be walking. Is 10,000 the right amount, or maybe is it less, or obviously is it more? So I'm going to look at 5 studies. The first study here, going straight into it, was a study done in 2022. They basically followed 78,000 people at an average age of 61 over 7 years. And interestingly, they looked at the rate of dementia. And this is where it got a little bit interesting, because at 3,800 steps per day on average, those people saw around a 25% reduction in their risk of getting dementia. But when they over doubled this to 9,800 steps per day, they saw a 50% reduction in dementia. So in this study, it looks like that by getting quite close to that 10,000 steps, by doubling those steps, they saw almost double the benefit in their health. This second study, again done in 2022, followed 78,000 adults between the ages of 40 and 79 over 7 years, and they found that up to 10,000 steps per day was associated with less mortality, less cardiovascular disease, and less cancer. So they showed that the more steps you're getting in the day saw more benefit, and up to around 10,000 is when we started to see the benefits plateau. This third study here, done in 2022, was a meta-analysis looking at 15 papers looking at this similar question, and what they were looking for was there any patterns, any common patterns, and was there a common conclusion that they can come up with. What they found was the more steps someone did on average per day, the less mortality. But then there was a number at which if you passed, the returns that you got diminished. And this was different depending on your age. So for those that were under 60, the number was between 8 to 10,000. So basically, if we doubled that number to 20,000, didn't necessarily mean that you had double the benefit. It's not to say that it's bad to get more steps than that, and you almost certainly will get more benefits, but those benefits would start to flatten out a little. Then for those that were over 60, they saw that number being between 6 and 8,000. So again, we're seeing a pattern that the more steps we get in a day, the more health benefits, but there is that number in which the health benefits start to plateau, and in this study was between 6 to 10,000. This fourth study here looked at 16,000 women over 4 years, and they found at 4,400 steps per day, they saw an association with less mortality. So this is something we're seeing in other studies, and they saw that these health benefits started to diminish over 7,500 steps. So the last study was fairly similar, so it's between 6 and 10 depending on your age. This one we're seeing it at around 7,500. Now this final study is interesting because this looked at arterial stiffness, so how stiff are your arteries, and basically the more stiffness we have, the more chance we have of cardiovascular disease. And they're looking at the association with the amount of steps we had in a day and the amount of arterial stiffness. And this is interesting because at 5,000 they saw that they had less stiffness, but at 7,500 steps per day they had even less stiffness. So this health benefit, these benefits here, increased from 5,000 to 7,500. So what can we conclude with these studies? Well, we can conclude that there is a number in which the returns start to diminish, in which the health benefits tend to diminish, And this was anywhere between 6 and 10. I think I would average this around 7 to 8,000. However, it's very close to that 10,000. Some of the studies saw those health benefits diminishing around 10,000. So actually, if you're aiming for 10,000, it turns out that it's actually not a bad number to go for. And of course, if you get more than this, you are going to get more health benefits. But if you're looking for the best bang for your buck, 10,000 seems to be a good amount for the ratio between the amount of effort you have to put in and the health benefits that you're going to get. Now, how many actually achieve this number? Well, one of these studies that I went through, they saw that only 20% were actually achieving the 10,000 steps per day. And on average, we do around 6,000 steps per day. So this tells us that for the majority of us, we can probably walk even just a bit more and get quite a bit more health benefits. But what about then the speed? How fast are you walking, and does that matter in regards to health benefits? Well, the evidence on this is a little bit conflicting. Now, if you followed me for a little while, you may have saw a video that I did a few years ago called the Grim Reaper's Walk. This was based on a study where they looked at the association between the speed of someone's walk and their chances of dying in the preceding years. And they found that those that were walking less than 2 miles per hour or 3 kilometers per hour were more likely to die than those that were walking more than that. Now, obviously, this is an association study, but it does suggest that walking faster tends to lead to better outcomes. Now, there's also many reasons to this, of course, because if you have a health condition, you tend to be able to walk not as fast as if someone is fit. But we also know that once we start to slow down, and particularly when we stop moving completely, it really is a downhill trajectory with our health, because we are designed to move for the proper function and health of our joints, our muscles, our ligaments, and for our nervous system. So it is really important that we're moving. And so I would think that the speed would matter. Now, interestingly, the meta-analysis that I mentioned earlier, they saw that there was no consistent data with the speed. So they saw some studies that saw positive health benefits with the faster you go, and some studies that didn't really see much correlation with that. I would think that it would be a good thing to walk faster, in the same way that it's beneficial to run compared to walking, although not to say that one is necessarily better than the other. But those that do a lot more running could arguably be a little bit fitter than someone that just does walking. Now, if you need any motivation to walk more, I have done a video on the top 5 surprising health benefits of walking, and that will pop up just there. I'll highly recommend you check that out. But just before that pops up, don't forget you can get 10% of Vivo barefoot minimalist shoes that I wear every single day. You can get 10% of Athanaze, which is a superfood specifically formulated for men, £10 off your first bag of XL coffee, an organic, super healthy, delicious coffee, and 15% off Fussy, which is a natural deodorant that doesn't have any of the harmful chemicals. I'll see you either on this video or my next, so don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Thanks for watching.